So when it comes to what you should look for in a property, this can vary depending on what kind of person you are, right? So what I'm going to try to do is not so much focus on specific things like, what kind of color you should paint the house or, bathroom features or kitchen features, but rather I'm going to zoom out and kind of focus on what I call like big picture stuff that you need to make sure you look out for when it comes to the property. Now, if you're someone who's also looking to generate like an additional income with your property, I'm going to highlight three things that I think you need to pay attention to when it comes to the property search. But let's get into the first item, the things that I think you need to pay attention to when you're looking at the property. So the first thing that I think you need to pay attention to is going to be the commuting option, right? Now, this is probably not as big of a deal as it used to be prior to COVID, right? Before COVID, like commuting was a big deal. But what I want you to really think about is more commuting options. The more options you have to get to your property, the more likely you're going to have an increased buyers if you need to sell that property here. So you need to think about the commuting option in terms of yourself personally, but you also want to think about the property. How easy is it for people to get to the property in different manners of transportation, right? So can they get to your property by taking the train? Can they drive to your property? Can they cycle to your property? Can they walk to your property? So you just want to think about like, hey, do I have multiple ways to get to this property? The second thing I think you need to pay attention to, and again, this might be a little bit controversial, but it's really not meant to be controversial, is going to be the effects of climate change, right? So if you're buying a property in an area that has now been known to have more climate issues like more flooding or whatever it is, right? That's going to mean a higher cost for you. Furthermore, it might be a problem for you down the road to actually be able to sell that property to someone else. So I don't really care whether you believe in climate change or you don't believe in climate change. That's not the point here. The point here is you need to be mindful that you need to get insurance on that property. And if you can't get insurance or if the insurance is too costly to insure that property, it means you're not going to be able to sell that property down the road when you need to sell it, right? So we want to avoid that. We want to think about those considerations and think about like, hey, if we're in a high flood area, maybe we want to look in another area that doesn't have quite as high of a flood because it might make it harder for us to actually be able to sell this property down the road. Next thing you want to try to do when it comes to the property is try to future proof it. And what I mean by that is when I bought my first home, right, the home we're still in, is I saw that it was a three-level home, which meant that we had like a bedroom on the upstairs and the kitchen. I thought that was great because I thought, hey, when we retire, when we get older, we don't have to go down because when you get older, the potential risk you could have of falling when you're going up and down the stairs is very high, right? In addition to that, I also saw that there was multiple bedrooms, which meant that at the time, me and my wife, if we decide to start a family, we wouldn't have to move. So that's what I mean by future proofing yourself is think about the property, not just now. Does it work for you now? But think about, does it work for you 10 years from now? Does it work for you 30 years from now? Because what you want to try to avoid is having to move frequently because that property doesn't work for you. The more often you have to move, the more cost you're incurring on the property, right? So you want to try to future proof the property by thinking about, hey, does this property work for me now? Will it work for me 30 years from now? And ideally, you want a property that will work for you now and also work for you 30 years from now. The next thing you want to look out for is what I call structural integrity, right? You want to make sure that the house is actually sound, right? And you're going to rely on an inspector for this, right? So if you get your inspection report, you just want to make sure you pay attention to any structural problems, right? Because ultimately you don't want to buy a property in which is going to be like foundational issue because that can be really costly or it could literally ruin the home that you've bought, right? So just make sure you check for any structural problem and make sure you address them before you purchase that property. The next thing you want to look out for is the age of the property, right? And this is just regarding to repair costs, right? If you have an older home that you're buying, just know that it's going to cost you more to repair that home because chances are it's not up to code to today's standards, right? So just be aware that the older the home I buy, the more costly the renovation is likely to be because it's not up to code, right? The next thing you want to check out for is the location. Now, obviously you hear this all the time, location, 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 but I'm not really talking about that sense in terms of like being in the right location because you're going to get desirability. I'm talking about location in terms of lifestyle, right? When you buy into like downtown Vancouver, and if you're someone who doesn't like noise, well, I'm sorry, when you buy a property in downtown Vancouver, you're gonna come with noise. That's what I mean about location. So think about the lifestyle that location is going to afford you and also consider is that lifestyle the lifestyle you want to live. Similar to future proofing, make sure the area has enough of a variety of lifestyle that it can age well while you're in that home itself. So don't be in downtown Vancouver if you think that, hey, I can't be in downtown Vancouver when I'm 50. You might have to move out, which is usually what happens. People usually, when they get older, they're going to move out of the Vancouver area because they want to go to somewhere more quieter. So just think about the location and think about future proofing that location so you can stay within the same neighborhood and not necessarily have to move it. The next thing you want to look out for is unique features features. Now, this can be both a blessing and a curse. And what I mean by that is you want to find unique features that buyers are going to like, but you don't want to find such a unique feature that it turns off buyers, right? Think about like the swimming pool example, right? A swimming pool can be something that someone could really want, and someone else could be like, I don't want it because it's an added cost. So just be mindful of the unique feature of the home and make sure it's not something that's going to scare off a lot of people because either it's too costly or it's too super unique. Now, if you're looking to buy a property and you also want to look for some investment qualities, here are three things I think you also should pay attention to. The first one is going to be zoning. This is really important because zoning essentially is what tells you what you can do with that property. So what you want to do is find out what the zoning is for that property, and then you want to go to the city and find out what the rights are regarding that zoning itself. And what you're really looking for is going to be the potential for you to subdivide that zoning or add additional units, right? Because that's how you make money when it comes to real estate. And the third thing you want to pay attention to is going to be the rental ability of that area itself. So you want to make sure you're buying a property in an area that's desirable for a lot of people, and a lot of people will want to rent there because again, income is how you make money when it comes to real estate, and the more units you can get, the better when it comes to real estate. So those are some things you want to pay attention to when you're looking for a property. Like I mentioned, I'm not talking about specific things in terms of like paint colors because again, those are very specific to you, but you want to broadly pay attention to those items, right? To make sure that you buy a property that can work for you today, but more importantly, that's going to work for you tomorrow as well, because you want to avoid having to move frequently, right? And if you pay attention to those things, you're going to make sure that you buy a property that's going to work for you today and work for you tomorrow. Hey everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this free sample module of my new course, How to Buy a Home the Right Way. My name is Brighton. I'm a licensed mortgage broker, a money coach, and the author of the book, Master Your Mortgage: What the Bank Won't Tell You About Buying the Right Home. So I have to be kind of honest here and tell, well, in today's world, it's very difficult to buy a home for most people, right? So I want to create this course really because I fundamentally believe to be good at money, knowledge is power. So whether you're thinking about buying a home or you feel that a home is out of your, near future of being able to buy a home, this course is really important because it fundamentally gives you knowledge that's going to help you whether you're looking to buy a home or any other assets really not matter. So my approach to this course is sort of giving you everything that you should know when it comes to buying a home, or at least the things that I wish someone had told me about when I was buying a home. So I don't just dive into buying a home, but I dive into all the things that you need to know, like how to read an inspection report. So I use live documents to sort of help you how you should read an inspection report, or how to really browse for a home and some of the details you need to look for. If you're using like services like MLS to look for a home, like what should you be looking for? And of course, because I have, a financial background here where I've worked for the bank, I dive into how you actually get approved for a mortgage. And more importantly, I tell you how you should really think about budgeting for your home. Not in the ways you generally hear from other people, but just really what you need to think about. Because, when it comes to mortgages and, housing in general, it's really set up to benefit the financial institutions, right? Like that's why they're in that business. So it's important for you to arm yourself with that information so you don't get taken advantage of, even when you think you're making a good decision, such as buying shelter for your family or for yourself. So if you're someone who's thinking about buying real estate, whether now or you see yourself in the future, or you already have a real estate in terms of buying a home and maybe you're looking to refinance, this is a good course for you to take because it's going to give you so much more information than what you're going to get from whether you're talking to your realtor or just strictly to your mortgage broker or your lender. But I kind of try to create all the information you need to know from all the other parties that maybe they will not tell you on their own. So if you're interested in taking this course, check out the link information in the video on how to access it. Of course, you can always go onto the website here at wealthmarathon.com. I do also want to let you know that I do other courses as well. So if you're interested in taking those other courses, my suggestion is to get the course bundle package because you get access to all the courses I have available on the website, as well as you get a 1 hour, interview with me or 1 hour session with me where we can discuss anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to money or housing as well. So check out the link in terms of how to access the course. And if you do access the course, please do me a favor and make sure you do send me an email. Let me know what you think about the course because I'm always looking at how to improve the course in the future as well. So thank you for your time. And again, check out the link in terms of how to access the course.